How's it going, everybody? It's me, Therapy. So with the new 2.0 update comes our first Albedo rerun banner, and many of you guys might be playing for Albedo and don't know how to use them. So in this video, we'll be taking a look at Albedo, weapons, talents, artifacts, constellations, and just everything you need to know how to make Albedo useful. And in the end, we will talk about is it worth pulling for Albedo or not. Starting off with Albedo's talents, normal attack is just like any other normal attack on a sword character, nothing special, and since Albedo's an off-field DPS character, we don't even need to level this, so it does not matter at all. Elemental skill. This is Albedo's bread and butter skill. This is the best skill and most important. It talks a lot here, but I'm just gonna summarize it real quick. So you place down a flower and it deals initial AoE geo damage and then has a range. And any opponents within that range is hit with any sort of damage, you'll create a transient blossom that deals AoE geo damage, and it happens once every 2 seconds. If you stand on the flower you placed, it'll go up like an elevator and it's really useless. If you hold the skill, you can choose where you want to place that flower. And the flower is just like a geo construct, it can't be broken by bosses, so just keep that in mind. Skill damage, which is the initial cast, is based off your attack percent. And the transient blossom, whenever you hit an enemy, is based off your defense percentage. And it does only happen once every 2 seconds. This is Albedo's bread and butter skill. And with this skill, you kind of want to build defense percentage. And this is one of the issues with Albedo is later on when we look at his elemental burst, you'll see that his elemental skill damage scales off defense, while his elemental burst does not scale off defense, it scales off attack. So there's an issue there. And you had to choose if you want to build attack or defense on Albedo. His elemental burst. Again, a lot of gibberish, but basically you cast it, it does a bunch of geo damage, and then it will create like a blossom, fatal blossoms that just go towards enemies and deal more geo damage. So this is another pretty good skill. It's not even required for you to cast if you don't have like C2, but it's still nice because it does a little bit of damage. But since most of the time you're building defense percentage on Albedo, it doesn't really matter because this is not going to scale that well and you're not going to do that much damage. And for Albedo's passive talents, his initial one is whenever you craft weapons material, ascension material, you have a 10% chance to double the product. His first ascension, the transient blossom generated by your elemental skill, deals 25% more damage to opponents whose HP is below 50%. That's a nice little bit DPS increase, nothing game breaking. And your third one, your second ascension passive talent that at ascension number 4, when using your elemental burst, increase the elemental mastery of nearby party members by 125 for 10 seconds. With other characters like Sucrose or Kazuha or even Diona, not really important, and with like a very destined set on Kazuha or Sucrose, it does not better, so not really important not really important passive talent. Starting off is just talking about Albedo's weapons. His best weapon currently is actually the 2.3 event weapon, Cinnabar Spindle. At max level, this is 454 attack with 69% defense percentage, and at R5, this will actually be 80% of defense. So elemental skill damage is increased by 80% of defense and occurs every 1.5 seconds and will be cleared after you deal damage with your elemental skill, which is your E. And since your E only activates once every 2 seconds, this is perfectly fine. This is currently his best weapon right now, and it's comparable to other weapons, but since this is free and you can get it, it's one of his best weapons. Another really good weapon is Harbinger of Dawn. So I don't have this leveled, but if you do have it leveled, its attack I believe is 401, and the crit damage is like 46.9%. And at R5, when HP is above 90%, increase crit rate by 28%. So and this is a 3-star weapon, so it should be pretty simple to get this to an R5. And if you have it, you could use it. It's really good on Albedo. Because you're running Albedo and with Geo, you can generate a lot of shields. And if you're running someone like Zhongli, one of the shield character, it should be pretty simple to have 90% HP all the time on Albedo, or just don't get hit. Some other weapons you could use are like J Cutter or Mist Splitter. Those two are also very good, but they are 5-star and they're better off using other characters like 5-star sword DPS characters like Ayaka or Keqing. But if you don't have anyone to use them on, you could use it on Albedo, but it does not outperform Harbinger of Dawn or the 2.3 event weapon. Some other weapons that we can talk about is stuff like Festin Desire, Favonia Sword, Sacrificial Sword, the ones that give you energy recharge. It's not really recommended to use because stuff like Harbinger of Dawn exists, and since it is 3-star weapon, really easy to get this to R5 and level up, doesn't cost much, and it performs just as well as like a 5-star Jade Cutter, so no reason to use these weapons, they just bring your DPS down. And now I'm gonna quickly go over the artifact sets and stats, starting from the best. So the best right now currently is a 4-piece Husk, followed by 2-piece Noblest, 2-piece Arcane Petra, or 2-piece Arcane Petra, and 2-piece Gladiator. As for artifact stats, Feather and Flower doesn't change, but for Sand, you can either go attack percent or defense percent. So attack percent is better for using Elemental Burst. You can get bigger damage that way, but defense percentage is just a little bit better overall, not by much, but like 3 to 5%. So it's recommended you go defense percentage, but if you're using Albedo and you only care about burst damage, attack percent is also fine. On Goblet, you want to go geo damage bonus. Defense percentage could work as well, but geo damage bonus is better. And as for the crown, is you go crit rate or crit damage, but most time you'll be going for crit rate because crit rate is hard to build, and the crown will give you 31.1%. And as for substats, you just want crit rate, crit damage, and then defense percentage. Moving on to Constellations. If you don't care about Constellations, you can skip this, but if you do, B1. Transient Blossom generated by Albedo's elemental skill regenerates 1.2 energy for Albedo. This is pretty nice if you are only running Albedo as a solo Geo character on your team. This allows him to burst more often. For C2, Constellation 2. Transient Blossom generated by his elemental skill grants Albedo Fatal Reckoning for 30 seconds. Unleashing your elemental burst consumes all stack of Fatal Reckoning, and each stack of Fatal Reckoning consumed increases the damage dealt by Fatal Blossom and your initial burst on your elemental burst, damage by 30% of Albedo's defense, and this effect can stack up to 4 times. So this is a really nice constellation because it fixes the issue of either you going defense percentage or attack percentage. Because you're only going attack percentage before, if you're wanting to do more elemental burst damage, you're losing a lot of damage on your elemental skill. But this fixes this issue and then allows you to purely do a defense percentage build, still do damage on your elemental skill, and now also doing more damage on your elemental burst. So this is a very nice constellation to have. C3 increases the level of your elemental skill by 3 levels, and the maximum level is now 15. So nice little bit of DPS increase. Active party members within the Solar Isotoma field have their plunging attack damage increased by 30%. This is not really helpful if you don't do any plunging attack. It really only works with Shell and Albedo, so yeah. C5 increase the level of your elemental burst by 3 levels and then your maximum level by 15. So again, this is not a very this is actually not very useful at all for Albedo because with C2 you're now pretty much switching over to a defense percentage build, and since your elemental burst stacks with your attack, and then having it by more levels will just mean it scales harder off your attack, but since you're not doing attack percentage build anymore, this is pretty useless and it's not really useful. And then C6, active party members within the Solar Isotoma field who are protected by a shield created by the crystallization have their damage increased by 17%. So again, not the most important constellation, but just a little bit nice of a DPS increase for your whole team. I will now quickly talk about team comps because Albedo doesn't have that many options as for team comps, just mostly because you're a Geo character and you're a little bit limited on that. So you could run Albedo by himself with no other Geo characters, but it is recommended you do run another Geo character just for the elemental resonance. You'll gain 15% more shield strength, and your when your character is shielded, you'll deal 15% more damage, and you can lower the geo resistance of enemy by 20% for 15 seconds. So this is about a 16-17% damage increase. So it's nice to run another geo character, but you don't have to, but it is recommended. And as of recording currently is a 2.3 update on the first phase of it. And there's not many geo characters to choose from. There's really two viable options, which will be Zhongli and Ningguang. If you run the Ningguang team, Ningguang's gonna be your main DPS, Albedo will be your sub DPS, and you can fill up the rest of the two with supports. With the Albedo and Zhongli comp, it's very, very nice because with Zhongli's shield and Albedo constantly creating shields with his Isotoma, it's very easy to have 100% shield time and you don't really need to run a healer, but you are taking up two of the slots of your team comp, so there's not much setup you can do in terms of damage for your main DPS. So if you're running something like Hu Tao, you really want to use Vaporize with Xingqiu, but then that just means you can't run any other characters. So this having Albedo and Zhongli only really works if you have like selfish DPS characters that can work off of like one other support just to do a little bit of more damage. But obviously you can run Albedo by himself. It will work, but it's not as efficient. But if you don't really have Zhongli or any other characters, you can run Albedo by himself. It will work. For Albedo's rotations, there's only really one rotation. You just pop your elemental skill, do a damage, and do a burst if you want. And then you switch off to your main character. That's it. So is Albedo worth pulling or not? It's hard to answer because as an individual unit, he's not that amazing that will blow you away, but with a right team, he could be an amazing character, such as if pair him with Zhongli and throwing Hu Tao or Xiao, it could be throwing around a lot of damage. But if you only have Albedo and no Zhongli or any other DPS characters that can work great without Albedo being swapped in all the time, it's not that amazing. And if you don't have Zhongli, it's really not worth pulling for Albedo, but there is a Zhongli rerun banner that's coming in 2.4 if the leaks are accurate, so take it with a small grain of salt, but most of the time these leaks are pretty accurate. And on the second banner of 2.3, there is Ito. So Albedo could work great with Ito, but I haven't really looked too deep into Ito and what his kit does and if he synergizes well with Albedo, so you might want to do a little bit of your own research to see if Ito works good with Albedo. With all that said, I still think Albedo is an amazing unit with the correct team comp. By himself, not so much, and it's really up to you if you want to run one of these team comps that works great with Albedo. The rest of the video is just a showcase of Albedo, so thank you guys for watching and have a good day and enjoy the rest of the video.
你的实力我姑且认可。
断，只是成景，羽线难化。
别担心，沧海之约。
这个我，远古于此显示，古华是密，断，财。
刚勇吧。我们走吧。
天动万象，固若金汤。
创生之宝。 羽线难化，彩羽流同。此即诞生者，
沧海之约。
安如磐石。
古华是密断，羽线难化。
帮帮忙，
固若金汤。
翻涌吧。
密藏阳华，
固若金汤，此乃天道。
创生之宝。
固若
藏阳华，灵骨于此显生。
天理长驱。呵，
创生之法。绽放吧！
一笔千仞。
玉造阳华。创生之法，灵骨于此显生。
雪分命定于此。神力流，双灭。
天动万象。
嘿，干命令，起舞吧。哼，呀，
拒收并蓄。
绽放吧！此即诞生之刻。水中。
天理